Hello there, everyone. I'm trusting that I'm here because I don't see myself yet. There we go. I do apologize if the video is a little bit choppy. My internet's kind of being a little bit funny. So, and not as in funny, haha. I mean, funny as in acting up. So please bear with me if it kind of cuts in and out on us. Okay. So I'm just going to wait until people kind of say hello before I start rambling on. Spring is, maybe I'll ramble on first, huh? Spring is finally here. It's actually really warm here today, somehow a little too warm for the time of year, and just trying to adjust to all that. So, who all is here? I see people are here, but I'm not. There we go. Now we have some people saying hello. How is everyone doing out there? This is something that I started on my birthday, which is an auspicious thing to do, which was like a week or so ago, where I did a live edition of the Vedic Lunar Scope, and I really enjoyed doing it. So I decided I was going to do it again. And so, what better opportunity than the full moon to do it? So we'll get into all of that here in a moment. I generally wait until there's a decent amount of people here before I start going into the energy of the lunar scope and things along those lines. So, in the meantime, if people have a general astrological question or two that you're looking for some insight on, and by general astrological question, I don't mean a question about your horoscope. What I mean is a general question about astrology. While we're waiting for people to kind of join us here, which we'll give another minute or two, then, I do have time to answer some of those things, right? So first of all, how is everybody feeling with the full moon energy amplifying at present? How's it treating everyone? Intense or relaxed or combination of both? Hopefully, if it's intense, you're relaxed and you're able to kind of handle that well. So while we're kind of waiting to get started, everybody, please feel free to, type your comments over in the chat window. Any questions you might have as well, you can feel free to place. So I'm seeing the chat disconnected. Hopefully the video didn't disconnect. There we go. Okay. Right. How's the video connecting for everybody? Am I cutting in and out on people, or is it pretty good? Right? That would be good to know. Let's see. I'm waiting. Okay. I think there might be a lag between me and everybody on their end. So if anybody has trouble seeing me or hearing me, as I mentioned before, my internet connection is not the best. So if you can let me know if it cuts in and out, that's great. And I'll just do the best that I can with it. Okay. Right. Okay. So hello, everyone. Thanks for saying hello and letting me know that you're here. Couple of things before we get down to business. I am presently offering a 10% discount until 10 p.m. tonight, London time, on the astrology session, level 1, the intensive career consultation, and in addition to that, the intensive financial consultation. And if you're interested in scheduling any of those and taking advantage of the 10% discount, you can do so through the link, which I'm going to paste in the chat window now. And all you have to do is enter the discount code Easter in all uppercase letters. Okay. So this is a very restless and intense full moon. With the moon being in Swati, it's bringing a lot of tension to the surface. I know for a lot of people because I've heard that interaction from people. And it's this feeling of wanting to see solutions from a situation that you feel exactly that you feel has to change like immediately, only that situation's not really willing to change immediately. And your perspective on it, and notice I am saying your perspective on it is such that no progress is being made. But there is progress that's being made. It's just that you're not really able to see it. Okay. There's some restless energy that you're likely experiencing because of things seemingly falling apart in one area of life. And that area is represented by Jupiter right now because Jupiter is transiting through Mula Nakshatra. And Mula Nakshatra does us a very big service, but people usually are not that happy with the service that it does for them. So I should say that. So let me explain that to you. Mula Nakshatra will tend to break situations apart. Okay. When situations get deadlocked and they don't really seem to go anywhere, then what ends up happening is we find ourselves in positions where we can't really hold things together anymore. So, somewhere in your life at the present moment, you may find yourself in just such a conundrum where you're feeling like it's difficult to hold something together, which you feel is very necessary for you to hold together. And in response to that, you're feeling like you need to perhaps be more assertive with the situation in order to make it work better. But the fact of the matter is, the way that old situation isn't going to hold together in that same way. And that's good. And it's good that it's kind of breaking apart because if you try to understand all of what is going wrong with it in one go, it would be way too complicated for you to kind of deal with and for you to kind of understand. So, the service that Jupiter and Mula does for us is it breaks things apart piece by piece so that as things are kind of dissolving, we get a chance to understand why it's dissolving. We also get a chance to understand what might be best for us to do in order to plot a new course for the future. And in short, we get an opportunity to change our path in relation to something. Now, I know what you're probably saying. You're going, okay, well, I thought that we were going to talk about Swati Nakshatra. We are, but guess what? Jupiter is forming. Jupiter is not forming. Jupiter is connecting to the moon in a chain of nakshatras, because the moon is in Swati Nakshatra, which is connected to Rahu. Rahu's in Punarvasu Nakshatra, which is connected to Jupiter. So that Jupiter is kind of feeding into the situation, right? And so it's creating some intensity along those particular lines. Now, going back to the foundation of the present situation that you're likely dealing with this specific moment, there's a desire within you to do what you feel. I'm very choosy with my words. Do what you feel is the right thing within a particular situation. Okay? You're trying to follow what you feel is dharmically correct, but what is the righteous path for you to take. The only thing is as you're trying to take that path, there's things are not really evolving in the way that you were kind of hoping for them to. And so there is some, I want to use the word racy energy in connection with that. It has you feeling tense, like, okay, well, this isn't working, but yet this is falling apart. So, what is it that I'm specifically meant to do with this situation? So, the best thing you can think of or come up with is to fall back on the path of adapting to the situation. Because in your mind, you go, okay, well, even though this feels like the righteous thing to do, obviously it's not working, so I have to adapt to the situation, right? But adapting to that situation with the same core set of rules that you're trying to follow. And the problem in the situation is that specific set of rules that you've been following kind of needs to go out the window. The rule book needs to be tossed away because you're dealing with a completely new set of rules now. And you're trying to do something by the old way when in reality, the old way isn't going to work anymore. Okay. So instead, what you're being asked to do is, yes, adapt to the situation, but look at new ways that you can approach things with the situation. Something is beginning to take form. And you can sense that, in the distant, future, so to speak. And by distant future, I don't mean years down the line. I mean probably later on this year. But you feel like you need to have a solution in place right this very specific moment. Okay. And so the best that you're likely going to find yourself in a position to do is to find a temporary solution in this very specific moment, right? And let that be okay for now, right? Some people like to call it, here in Europe, it's called the sticking plaster solution. In the States, it's called a Band-Aid solution, right? So Band-Aid solutions are not always bad because they allow the wound to heal, right? And you're definitely in a position where something is needing an opportunity to heal as something is beginning to transform. Now, Swati Nakshatra is what's called Achara and Achala Nakshatra. Being Achara and Achala Nakshatra, it creates this unsteady energy. And because even though this is a full moon, the moon is somewhat compromised at this particular moment because of the degree of the sign that it's in. And I'm focusing on nakshatras here. That's why I'm not going into rashis. And so on a certain level, it has you feeling not happy about the situation, and that restlessness is building up. And as you're interacting with the situation, there's this frustration that's kind of going, well, this really isn't working out. And the only thing is as that's happening, with the feedback that you're getting, you're beginning to feel like the practical thing to do is to become more assertive, along the lines of the solution that you've been working with so far. But whilst on one level, you have part of the path right, on another level, you're a little bit confused, right? There's a predominance of energy of planets that are tying into this situation that are in either Vaishya nakshatras or Kshatriya nakshatras. I'm going to explain each. Vaishya nakshatras are all about interaction. Okay, so when a Vaishya nakshatra is active, just like Swati nakshatra, okay, and just like Uttara Ashada nakshatra, which is where Saturn is right now, and Saturn's creating an angle to the moon. When Vaishya nakshatras are active, it's all about interacting with the situation and learning through interaction, right? Something isn't working in the right manner. Well, you go, okay, well, I have to get rid of that idea and take in this idea and see what I can make of it, right? And get rid of those things that don't work and trade it in for something that does work, because Vaishya nakshatras are all about trade, right? And then you have Mercury and Venus, who are also connecting to the moon at the time of this full moon, right? And they're in Kshatriya nakshatras. Kshatriya nakshatras are all about doing that which is noble. When they get a little bit out of kilter, though, sometimes there can be pride issues. Sometimes there can be the feeling that one's dignity is going to be impacted if one doesn't come up with the perfect solution in just the way that you think it should come together, right? But sometimes it's more noble to let a situation kind of slip and let a situation change rather than trying to hold on to the old way that it used to be. Because guess what? It's not going to be that way anymore. So instead, you have to look at improving the situation as it's changing. You have to look at building up on different ground whilst accepting that that ground that you're building up on is feeling a little bit shaky, right? But that shakiness of the ground that you feel that you're on, a lot of that is perception. Okay. You just need to, I have to be careful what I say here. Hold the course, right? So, in other words, have the same destination in mind, but alter the method in which you're going about things. Now, somebody was asking a question down here about, is there a connection between this full moon and the previous one? Yeah, I haven't really been looking into that, but there is an astrological energy that seems to be kind of hanging around lately. And a lot of that is because of Jupiter's transit through Mula Nakshatra and Saturn's transit through Uttara Ashada Nakshatra, both of which are slow moving planets. And as we begin to have these different transit videos, those planets are interacting with the planets that we're talking about. So there's a predominating energy of things beginning to kind of crumble and fall apart while something new is needing to be built. But overall, I would say the message of this full moon is that restlessness that's there beneath the surface. Don't try to dominate that energy. Okay. Um, I'm going to say something else here, but and that can be misconstrued. Try to control that energy. So you're probably going, what's the difference between dominating that energy and controlling that energy? Well, what I mean by dominating that energy is don't try to make the situation something that it's not. Instead, accept that restlessness, but control your reaction to that restlessness, right? Recognize that you can change things on the fly. Recognize that you still have the same goal in mind, albeit using a different way to get there, and begin to take steps in the direction that you're trying to achieve, but letting those steps change along the way. Okay, so I did want to mention again until 10, sorry, until 10 p.m. tonight. I almost said until 10% tonight. Until 10 p.m. tonight, there is a 10% discount on all of the sorry, I should take that back. Not on all the astrological services. There's a 10% discount on the astrology session level 1, which is a 3-question consultation, the intensive career consultation, and the intensive financial consultation. If you're interested in scheduling any of those before 10 p.m. London time tonight and taking advantage of your 10% discount for those, then you need to go to the following page, which is a link to my services page, and enter the discount code Easter when you go to make payment. Okay. So another thing I wanted to talk to people about, and then I'm going to take some questions on the side over here, is the fact that people have often asked me how I put together the energetics for the Vedic lunar scopes. And it's a combination of elements from the Panchanga, right? Which are, it's the 5 limbs is what the Panchanga means. And so these are 5 elements related to each day, which are the Vara, which is the planet that is associated with the day, the Tithi, which is the lunar day, the Nakshatra, which everybody understands the Nakshatras because that's what I talk about daily, the Karana, and in addition to that, the yoga. So I take all of those things and combine them together and judge the overall strength of the planets that are connected to them and put together the energy for this. So guess what? If you would like to learn how to do this yourself, I am starting a course in August on the elements of the Panchanga, and it's open for early registration at the present moment at a 10% discount. So if you're interested in registering for this class, you can do so at the link that I'm going to put in the video here. The course is already discounted 10% on the course page. The price for the 15-week class is $296 if you register prior to the 8th of May. And if you register after that, it's $329. So if you're interested in registering for that course or finding out further information about that course, there is a link that I just put in the chat section. Okay, let's see if anybody has any questions about anything at all. If you do, please feel free to ask. Okay, let's scroll up in the window and see if anybody has any questions that I've missed so far while people are typing in their new questions in the chat window. Let's see. Okay. Sorry, I'm just going quiet because I'm trying to read people's notes. And you can feel free to type some other questions in the chat window as well. Okay. Okay, somebody had asked a question about how this transit is going to be for them. It can be a little intense by saying their moon Rashi is Scorpio and ascendant is Taurus. Well, there may be some restlessness coming up over relationships for you, but I can't go more into depth with it than that because really I need to know more than just where your ascendant is and where the moon is, because otherwise I can't really answer that question accurately, which is one of the reasons I suggest people schedule a consultation with me if that's something that people are interested in. Okay. I am wondering if I am connected here because people's questions seem to be appearing slowly over here on this end. Okay. They're appearing, but they're appearing slowly. So if anybody else has any other questions, you can please feel free to ask. The Jupiter influence will change when it shifts to Jyeshta Nakshatra, right? If you notice in my videos, pardon me, I don't go too deeply into Rashis. There's a reason why, and some people have speculated that it's for one specific reason, which is the fact that I work with a tropical zodiac with sidereal nakshatras, and that for some reason I don't want people to know that I do that, but I have no problem letting people know that I work with the tropical zodiac with sidereal nakshatras. I focus on the nakshatras in my video because I believe that both systems, both the tropical zodiac with sidereal nakshatras and the sidereal zodiac with sidereal nakshatras, are accurate and provide accurate information. And so I think people kind of squabble over things senselessly in regards to that. So I like focusing on the nakshatras because they're the one thing we can all share in common without kind of getting into all of those things on the side. So yes, I know that you asked a question about precession. I don't really want to go too deeply into that question because it's a very long-winded question, and it's a question that many different people would have different opinions on. And so it's just rather long-winded. That's why I'm not really going into it. Okay. Precession of the equinoxes, there are many different calculations that are used to calculate that. Different people use different ayanamshas. Many people will stand by a certain ayanamsha and go, this is the absolute precise, ayanamsha. And then everybody else will say that that ayanamsha is complete rubbish. And then those people who say that that ayanamsha is complete rubbish will say the other person's ayanamsha is complete rubbish. And then they kind of, eventually lob bombs at each other over things like that. And the whole, yeah, I think you get the general idea. It's not really, there's no common agreement about that in the astrological community, with the exception of people who commonly agree on a specific ayanamsha. A lot of people use Lahiri ayanamsha. I use something called Dhruva Galactic Center ayanamsha. So I hope that answered your question. Saturn retrograde. Is it on the 29th? I think it might be on the 29th. But I plan on doing a video on that in a few days, just so you know. Can I please do a video for beginners in astrology? That would have to be a video series. I'm not necessarily planning on doing that, but I had plans on making a fundamentals course that was a video course available to people, right? And potentially doing some future fundamentals courses as well. By the way, a couple of different things. As I mentioned, if you're interested in how I put together this information on the daily Vedic lunar scopes that I do, which I, imagine a lot of you watch the videos because otherwise you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't get that notification that, I'm here and I'm live. I am starting a course that doesn't start until like the 3rd of August, but it's open for early registration at this particular moment with a 10% discount if you register before the 8th of May. The course normally is $329, right? And with the discount, the course is $296. Okay, so that discount is available. That discount is available at the link that I just put on the page. So somebody is asking again, how do we know when the precession actually moves. You'd really have to observe a lot of astronomy. I don't really plan on doing a video on it. It's just, um, I just find it's a concept that a lot of people get into arguments about, when in reality, if people had healthy debate upon things, then that would be one thing. But I'm very big on my channel on kind of having some unity, trying to keep the harmony there, trying to keep peace there, which doesn't mean I, not never going to state my opinion. I do, but it's just not a subject that I really want to get too deeply into it, because even though I recognize it's something that you're interested in, I think it would actually go over a lot of people's heads, really. So I respect your interest in it, but it's not something that I will likely do. Okay. What book do I recommend as a most comprehensive and thorough reference to Vedic astrology? So, do you mean what book do I recommend as a comprehensive text on the fundamentals of Vedic astrology? So, can you be a little clearer with your question? That might help. By the way, again, a 10% discount is open until 10 p.m. tonight on the intensive career consultation, the astrology session, level 1, and the intensive financial consultation, all of which can be booked at the link that I'm going to put in the chat window over here for your benefit. And by entering the discount code Easter in all uppercase letters. Okay. Okay, so let's see. Sorry, I'm just reading people's questions. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. Can I speak on the importance of Rahu and Punarvasu transit? Well, of course, the Rahu and Punarvasu transit is going to be different for each particular individual, and each person will perhaps encounter it in a positive polarity or in a difficult polarity, dependent upon a few different factors, dependent upon their own individual relationship to Rahu in their own individual horoscope, and the transits that the transiting sign that Rahu is in, the strength of that particular planet that rules the sign that Rahu is transiting in the individual's horoscope. So as you can see, there's a lot of complexities with that, right? Okay, so can give you a general overall thing, which is the concept of being patient with processes is one thing, right? Being willing to understand that if we want something badly enough, then we sometimes have to weather the storm and go through it. And we have to try to understand that that storm that we're going through is not necessarily a bad thing, but instead a strengthening factor. And even though it may seem like the universe's way of, punishing us in some cruel and inhuman manner, it's actually the universe's way of nurturing us and making us strong enough to fulfill the path that we're trying to fulfill. Punarvasu is an Artha nakshatra. It's always going to have a goal in mind, right? Sometimes it's symbolized by an arrow. So it's like trying to, hit the target, but it's like an arrow being drawn and not yet released, if you follow. So it's focused on target, but it's letting the energy and the momentum gather, right? And so Rahu and Punarvasu will be teaching each person on a certain level how to be patient with the process of letting something gather together in terms of strength and how to work with that. At the present moment, based upon where Rahu is within that particular nakshatra, there's this overwhelming desire for something to change, and the individuals may feel like they're taking action, but that action is becoming frustrated, right? And it kind of ties in with this present energy, because it's one of the planets that I was considering in the mix in terms of determining this full moon energy. There's this energy of going, I have to try to control this because the universe is being unfair and I want things to be this way. When in reality, things aren't going to change just because you want them to be that way. They're just going to gather together doesn't mean you should lose sight of the goal. It means that you should gather together your resources for the journey, but equally be willing to look at how it's not about controlling the situation, but instead adjusting to the changes that are going on, right? Nourishing yourself, recognizing that it's not about continuing to push forward, but instead nourishing yourself for the next stage of the journey ahead. Okay. A book on the fundamentals of Vedic astrology. I have very seldom seen one that is comprehensive, that is completely comprehensive. Your best bet is to take a course with a teacher that you trust, because that's going to get you further than any books will do. But in terms of books that are good on the subject that give you a lot of information on the topic, there's a couple that I would recommend. One is called Vault of the Heavens by Ernst Wilhelm, and the other is called Graha Sutras by Ernst Wilhelm. Graha Sutras is on the planets. It'll teach you so much about the planets, right? And the Vault of the Heavens is more of a comprehensive understanding of houses, nakshatras, and everything like that. But if you can understand, unless the text was like this huge compendium or several different volumes, it's very hard to write a comprehensive book on Vedic astrology. Thank you for your gratitude, Margaret. It's deeply appreciated. Okay. So let's see if anybody else has any other questions, right? So another course I want to tell you about is my Nakshatra Secrets course. I don't have that link in front of me, but if you go to my website, AuthenticAstrology.com, you'll see a link under the webinar courses. I'm presently holding a weekly webinar series on the nakshatras with a different nakshatra being covered every week, and we're devoting an entire hour to an individual nakshatra and really understanding it from the esoteric perspective. What do I mean by that? Understanding the lesson that that nakshatra is trying to teach us, how it's trying to guide us in a certain direction. Because when it comes down to the nakshatras are about growing the factors that are placed in them in a very specific way. Okay, so if you have a planet that's placed in Bharani Nakshatra, you may grow that planet in a manner that teaches you that any that you sometimes have to go through struggles in order to attain the goal that you want to achieve, but the struggle is something that can be worth it for the thing that is born from the experience that you go through, right? Or it can also teach you how you need to learn to let go of certain things in relation to that planet, rather than trying to hold on to them very tightly, right? So the Esoteric Nakshatra Secrets course teaches you about each individual nakshatra, helps you to understand the lessons behind that individual nakshatra, so that if you have a planet placed in them, you know how to work with that. And you can find that through my website, AuthenticAstrology.com. In addition, I will reiterate, if you're interested in scheduling a consultation with me, especially if you're interested in the astrology session level 1, or the intensive career consultation, or the intensive financial consultation, all 3 of those consultations are available at a 10% discount until 10 p.m. tonight, using the discount code Easter in all uppercase letters, right? And I just told you about the Nakshatras course. I am also doing another course that's a good companion for that. And for those of you who've been here the whole time, I'm sorry I keep repeating it. It's just we keep having new people pop in. Okay. Um, there is a good companion course for that, which are the elements of the Panchangam, which teach you about the Tithis, or the lunar days, teaches you about the yogas, right, which are a mathematical calculation composed of the sun's degrees and the moon's degrees added together, plus something else added to that, and that specific degree taken, and then you determine the yoga by that. And also the karana, which is half of a lunar day. The nakshatras, so nakshatras are part of this course, but we're not going to explain each individual nakshatra, because otherwise the course would have to be very long, right? But there will be information in the PowerPoint for the course on each individual nakshatra. That's why I recommend that these 2 classes be taken together. But you can take the Panchanga course all by itself, and you should be good. And you can, just get a decent book on the nakshatras and kind of, work with the nakshatras in that way with it. And equally the Vada, which is the planet connected to the day. And so this course will focus on how to put all of those elements together, understand the strength of all the different components, and generally understand what the energy of the day is likely going to be like, right? And that's how I work with my lunar scopes, for those of you who are interested. Okay, let's see some more questions. If anybody has any general astrological questions. I think somebody's saying, do I use Bindu and teach on it? I think what you might mean is Bhrigu Bindu. I do use it in trying to determine what type of a career someone should do, but I incorporate it with other techniques for that. I don't just use it solely for that particular concept, right? But I do work with it. I don't really teach a lot on it, no, because it's, you know, it's a really simple concept. Okay, so let's see if anyone has any additional questions. I'll give you another minute or so to ask a question. Other than that, it's going to be time to say so long soon. Okay, so let's see. What nakshatra teaches death or the way that you die? Well, nakshatras that can help you to understand the processes of death are Bharani Nakshatra. That's a good one. Bharani Nakshatra in terms of, so I'll explain each of these because that's a good question. But in terms of the way that the individual is going to die, it's dependent upon which planets are active through dashas at the particular time of the person's death, right? So that has to be determined a different way. You can't just say that this planet determines how the person's going to die, because it would only be accurate in like a small percentage of circumstances, right? But let's talk about some of the processes of death, because that's a good question that you're asking. Bharani Nakshatra is connected with Yama. Yama is often understood to be the god of death, but he's so much more than that, because Yama's purpose is to take souls, once the body has passed away, to take them to the ancestral realm so that they're able to reflect back upon their life, understand what they have done well and what they haven't done well. And if there's more learning that needs to happen, then Yama will give the person another body so that he can go through more experiences, learn more, incorporate more, and evolve further. Right? So Yama is often called Dharma Raja, or the king of Dharma, because he helps to judge our karma so that we can come and how we've, you know, lived up to our Dharma or not, so that we know whether we need to take another incarnation. Then you have Magha Nakshatra. Magha Nakshatra gives the power to leave the body, right? Doesn't just give the power to die and leave the body that way, but Magha Nakshatra can teach us many lessons about letting go as well, or about going into a certain place when we're going through hardship, right? Okay, so I'll explain that. Magha Nakshatra gives the power to leave the body. So when we're going through hardship, Magha can give us the capacity to kind of journey for a little bit and go, okay, I need to kind of take my mind away from this. That can sometimes be a positive thing. It can sometimes be a negative thing. If you're doing it because you're wanting to repress your emotions in regards to a situation, then that's not positive. If you're doing it because you're going, you know what, I need a healthy break from this, that can be positive. So Magha Nakshatra has some of those qualities associated with it too, because at the time of death, the soul leaves the body and it goes, okay, I'm leaving this form. So Magha Nakshatra gives the very same capacity. Then there's Revati Nakshatra. Revati Nakshatra relates to that stage after death where we're in transition, where our previous birth is over with. The next birth has not yet come into creation, and we're going through a lot of different changes and transformations before that next potential birth comes into creation. So all three nakshatras refer on some levels to death-related processes. Okay. So somebody's saying, what house? There are a few different houses that can create death. And that's why I'm kind of giving you such a roundabout answer, because it's not just a simple question. People who generally like to go in and understand when they're going to die, you have to learn really good techniques to be able to do that. It's not just a simple matter of looking at the Rashi chart and making a guess. It's a thing of going, right, I have to look at what the potential length of life is for the person. I have to look at dashas that they're going through that have the potential to create that. So there's a lot of different factors that you have to consider. Okay. What is Venus, Rahu, Saturn dasha? Well, that is a planetary period. Okay, that's so here's how planetary periods work, right? Planetary period is a more of the English equivalent of the concept of what are called Vimshottari dashas, right? Which are like planetary periods. And the way that they're determined is by looking at the nakshatra that the moon is in. So, for instance, if you're born with the moon in Bharani nakshatra, that means you enter this lifetime in a Venus dasha. After Venus dasha always comes the sun dasha. After sun dasha always comes the moon dasha. But each person can enter this lifetime in a different dasha. Now, these dashas have sub-dashas or sub-periods all the way down to 5, right? And they follow a similar sequence, right? So during Venus, the first dasha, sub-dasha you'll go through will be, during Venus dasha, the first sub-dasha you'll go through will be Venus. Then you'll go through Venus sun. Then you'll go through Venus moon. Then you'll go through Venus Mars. Then you'll go through Venus Rahu, right? So then when you're in Venus Rahu dasha, you'll go through Venus Rahu Rahu. Then you'll go through Venus Rahu Jupiter, and then you'll go through Venus Rahu Saturn, right? So these different planets determine which karma comes to fruition in your horoscope. So Venus, Rahu, Saturn dasha would bring all the karma in your horoscope and in all the different Varga charts to the surface, revolving around those particular planets. That's probably the easiest way to explain it to you. Okay. A lot of people like to say that the Navamsha will tell you how you will be in the later part of life. I never really use it for that purpose because I use things like what are called the planetary ages to determine that. Instead, it can tell you about the married life and it can tell you about the partner, but so too can the Saptamsha. And there's a lot of different techniques to determine that. But overall, what the Navamsha chart is for is to show those things where you find purpose in life. It's about finding meaning in life, right? So, some people are on the marriage path because they find meaning in a partner. Some people are on a spiritual path because they find meaning in that. So the Navamsha chart ultimately is about meaning, which is why people tend to look at it in terms of trying to understand the soul of the individual. Okay, so let's mention again, if I may, and if everyone will indulge me, that there is a 10% discount on the astrology session level 1, which is a 3-question consultation that lasts about an hour. The intensive career consultation, which what that does is it takes a look at your karma around success, helps you to understand how you might be blocking your karma around success, or you can use that consultation instead to understand what you should do for a living. Plus, it allows for one additional career related question. So it takes an in-depth look at your career for you and how you can better plan the path to success for yourself. That's the intensive career consultation. There's a similar consultation called the intensive financial consultation, which helps you to understand your karma around finances, how you might be blocking your prosperity. And in addition to that, it gives you some guidance in terms of how to navigate the approaching ups and downs in terms of financial upswings and downswings. And that's the intensive financial consultation. So the astrology session level 1, intensive career and intensive financial consultation, all discounted by 10% until 10 p.m. tonight at the link I'm going to type into the window. And to take advantage of that discount, you need to enter the discount code Easter in all uppercase letters. If none of those consultations suit you, I do have other consultations there, but sadly, they're not being offered at a discount. But you could look and see if there's something else there that's better for you. Okay, let's see if we have another question from someone. Whew. Okay, so people, astrology, when we first learn it, is something that's very amazing to us, right? And when we first learn it, we have to kind of tap into it in very simple manners, right? So people will quite often ask questions like, what spiritual path would suit Ashwini and Swati nakshatras, it's kind of hard to give an overall answer to that because there could be other factors in your horoscope that would indicate you need to take a different path than the path I would suggest just based upon Ashwini and Swati nakshatra. So, in order to understand the spiritual path for an individual, you need to understand a little bit more than like the moon nakshatra, right? And so it's a little bit deeper of a question. So I don't want to go too deeply into that because I would likely be giving you information that may not serve you overall, and I'd rather help you rather than guide you in the wrong direction if you follow. Okay. So let's see if we have any other questions here. Okay. Okay. Yes, I agree with you, Margaret Valentine. I appreciate harmony and discussions, but I do find that people get into like heated discussions about things and try to call each other idiots and things like that. So I tend to stay away from that. Somebody saying, "What are my thoughts on psychology astrology?" Do you mean like understanding what an individual should do to heal themselves through astrology? I think that we have to be a little careful with that question, but I'll answer it in the way that I can potentially answer it. Psychology needs to be done by psychologists. That being the case, you can counsel people even if you're not a psychologist, if you have natural and inherent counseling skills through using things like the nakshatras. The nakshatras work in a really excellent manner to provide empathy between the astrologer and the client in order to understand where the individual is getting stuck and to help them to begin to become unstuck. So I think what you're saying is, what are my thoughts on astrology helping people versus astrology just giving prediction? I think that both can be helpful, right? I think that prediction can be helpful if it can help to alleviate any stress you have over a certain circumstance or help you to accept things if the answer is no. But I think that just giving a straight prediction without giving an understanding as to why the specific situation exists in the first place is like treating the symptom without treating the source of the disease. So I feel like you have to treat the source of the disease too. Okay. There's a lot of ways to know which planet is stronger in a chart. One among those is Shatbala, but there's other ways to do it too. Okay, so somebody saying, "I'm going to school for psychology and I would love to combine astrology." You might want to consider taking my Nakshatra Secrets course, which is an ongoing weekly webinar because you can learn the nakshatras that way and the therapeutic potential that's locked up within the nakshatras. It would be a good place for you to start. And then you also might want to consider combining that with the elements of the Panchanga course, which could give you a lot of good information in that regard too. So I'm going to put the link to the elements of the Panchanga course here for you and let you know that it is discounted, 10% for early registration at the present moment. And you can find the link to the Nakshatras course if you're interested in doing so from then. But Nakshatras are a really wonderful way to tap into more of the therapeutic qualities of Nakshatras. Okay. Let's see what else we've got here. I think that's it. So that was the link to the new Panchanga course, which starts in August, but it's open for early registration at a 10% discount until the 8th of May. And again, one last time, if you want to schedule a consultation, there's a 10% discount on a few, which are the astrology session level 1, which can address a few different factors by allowing you to answer 3 different questions. The intensive career consultation, which gives you a deeper look at your karma around success and how to work with that and help to make yourself more successful, as well as one specific question you might have about career, and the intensive financial consultation, which helps you to understand your karma around finances, how to unblock yourself from allowing prosperity to flow into your life. And in addition to that, it helps you to look at the financial ups and downs that are approaching and how best to work with that. I've already put the link to my services page here in the window. If you want to schedule one of those three, the discount code, all uppercase letters, is Easter. Thanks a lot for coming, everybody, and I will talk to everybody the next time I come on, and I'll try to do this a little more often. Bye now.